Welcome to Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery, a conversation held at the intersection of substance abuse, mental health, and everyday living. Your hosts, Mark Regala and Justin Wolf, bring both professional expertise and personal understanding to the table. So welcome to the conversation. Let's dive in.
To another episode of Healing Minds, Stories of Recovery and Resiliency. I'm your host, Justin Wolf, joined by always with Mark Regala. Mark, how you doing today, man?
Doing wonderful. How about you?
Doing all right. Running low on my Easter stash of jelly beans at this point, but yeah, they lasted a decent amount of time. Yeah, it would have been longer if you actually bought those ones that you showed me a photo of that was half off, but here we are.
Tell the audience about it. That was,
It was like $1.90 a bag.
That was at the grocery store.
Give me a photo.
Yeah.
Just a tease, Mark. Just a tease.
I'm not going to waste my money on that stuff and put poison in your body. So lemon heads tonight?
Yeah, I'm down to 3. So
what did you start with?
Don't you worry about how many I started with.
How big of a bag?
Yeah, just keep your judgments to yourself.
Oh,
yeah, now we're quiet. Okay.
Okay, let's get serious. April 30th. It's hard to believe. Seems like we were just talking about Christmas yesterday, and now it's April 30th. Calendar's turning over to May 1st. And in the mental health world, May is probably considered one of the most important months of the year because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And that's something that we're going to be talking about today on today's podcast.
Absolutely. And if anybody, and for all those that are listening, obviously you all value and prioritize and recognize just how important mental health is and just the power of starting to break the stigma and have these ongoing conversations about mental health, acknowledging what is going on and talking about it, right? And this is one of those, when we talk about, the special of the month, right? Like this should not just be relegated to just 1 month. This is a year-long conversation and awareness that should be persistent, discussed in order for change to happen here. So yeah, Mark, I think this is a great topic. I think it's a great idea to kind of dive into this because everybody's impacted by it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, so I did a little research before the call or before the Zoom, excuse me. And I wanted to do a little research about the history of Mental Health Awareness Month. And I shared this before we started recording. I had no idea that it was established back in 1949. And yes, we've come a long way when it comes to mental health awareness. Certainly made great strides, the last 10 to 15 years. But the truth is we have so much more work to do, in my opinion. I mean, it needs to be normalized. It needs to be part of everyday conversation. It needs to be addressed. We need to feel comfortable having these conversations with our children, our spouse, our friends, and so forth. So, the positive has become a long way. But the good news is we have this month to provide awareness to kind of project where we can go moving forward. Because as you and I both know, there is a mental health crisis going on out there right now. I mean, it's been snowballing, in my opinion, since, it was bad before COVID, but since COVID, it's definitely changed. I mean, there was a complete pendulum change at that particular time. And not only are we seeing, people in mental health crisis, but we're also seeing substance use on the rise, alcoholism on the rise. We see it all. So, I mean, it is something that is so important, to the general public and to the families in the area and so forth.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, it's just a very it's throughout our entire country. Like nobody doesn't know somebody who is not struggling or been impacted by mental health, whether it's anxiety. You mentioned COVID, so my mind just kind of got stuck there. And it's just I feel like it's like the third day in a row COVID has been brought up in a conversation that I've been a part of. And it's just recognizing when that happened, it's people point at that, that was when things changed. The anxiety, the stress, the isolation, kind of being trapped in your own thoughts that you might have used to have had some ways to escape and to avoid. They're kind of taken away. So then you got despair and depression that just amplify, along with just a rapid increase in individuals with substance use disorders. like an addiction just kind of amplifying there. And so I think it just speaks on just really the importance of continuing to have these conversations, because as much as we might like to think like, oh, you're just going to get over it, this is just a phase. And for some people, like it is just a period of time when this distress happens and occurs and they move forward. And for a lot, this is a lifelong battle that people find themselves in. And it's important that we keep talking about it as opposed to engaging in things or behaviors. I shouldn't just generalize say things, but engaging in behaviors and the way we respond and talk to other people and treat other people that shut them down, where they don't feel like it's safe to talk about this. Where even though there's been so much promotion about talk about your mental health, talk about it, get it out there. There's a lot more resources, sports, and those things have changed. Like you said, like there's been an increase there. And there's still so much silence surrounding this topic. You know, you still talk about stigma. Stigma's there still. It's still there. Just the way even people in the field talk about it at times. And I know you and I talk about that, where it's just like, you have to be willing to understand. You have to be willing to kind of step outside sometimes your own comfort zone to really open up your mind to understand the experiences of others and what it is that their struggles look like and what those battles are that they aren't choosing to have. Because I think sometimes like it gets kind of twisted in that way. They're like, well, they just need to do this or they need to do that. It's like, oh, and to think that that person didn't think of that, like, come on now. If it was that easy, it's like the good old skit where it's like, here, it's like 3 minutes of therapy, just stop it. And it doesn't work. I think that is where just continue to have these conversations and spread that awareness, because recognizing that there is an immense amount of strength that people persist and carry with them that allow them to endure the pain that comes with these diagnoses, with these challenges they experience. But that's not how the public has been seeing it for years. That's not the popular public opinion. It's like, if you're struggling, it's because you lack something or you're weak. And same thing's been persistent throughout society when it comes to those who struggle with addictions and have substance use disorders, where it's like, oh, you need to change. Like, why are you doing this? Like, you clearly insert whatever. But I think it's all this that kind of comes together that leads to people saying, I don't feel safe talking about this or letting you in to see what I'm actually going through.
I mean, in my opinion, the conversation should be just as normal as any other disease. People talk about, I have, and I always use the example of diabetes. I know that, but I mean, my A1C is this, and I'm making a change in my diet here, or the doctor put me on this medication to get my sugar down, or whatever it might be. It's a disease that's in the same category as diabetes. Why aren't we normalizing it? And that's one hope that I would have, sometime in my lifetime, is that it is just as normal as talking about any other disease, whether it's diabetes, cancer, MS, whatever it might be. And I think that's where acceptance and healing is really gonna start. And people are gonna be less shameful and feel less guilty because of the normalization of the conversation as well. Because there's a lack of normalization there, I think, is where that shame and guilt comes in at, and the finger pointing, like you alluded to earlier as well.
And I think that's great. That's a great point, Mark. It's like, hey, highlighting the importance of just, talking about it, acknowledging, shining a light on this thing that a lot of times is told, like, kind of keep in a dark room and don't open the door and don't let it out. It's like, hey, we're going to talk about this because that's where strength comes from.
Well, since you mentioned shine a light, I'm going to completely change the subject because that was a perfect segue. So this is the NAMI podcast, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, formed in 1985, locally here in DuPage County. And they're doing a lot for May Mental Health Awareness Month. You're going to see a lot of information getting pumped out there. But they do have a fundraiser, and they do have a gala that's coming up on Saturday, May 16th at 5:30 in the evening. And guess what the name of the gala is, Justin?
Shine a light, Mark.
Shine a Light Gala. And we didn't even rehearse that.
Oh.
Going to be at the Naperville Marriott. It's a wonderful time. There's going to be dinner. There's going to be live entertainment. There's going to be a lot of people from the various mental health organizations in the area. There's going to be a silent auction. So if anybody that's watching this podcast has an interest, please go to namidupage.org, as they are selling tickets for the gala right now. And I guess while we're on the subject, let's talk about some of the services that NAMI provides. Obviously, these listeners are listening to this podcast, but NAMI is a true non-for-profit organization. They get their money through grants as well as private donations. So really, the services that they provide are free of charge. And there's a lot of great support groups that the organization has available to the general public that I don't think a lot of people realize. Um, One, you do have the dual diagnosis group on the first and third Tuesday of the month. You have the connection support group that meets on Wednesdays and Thursdays. That's more mental health focused. We do have the living room at the NAMI office, which is an alternative to the emergency room, where if somebody feels a little triggered, wants to talk to somebody, they can talk to a peer that has a lived life experience. They offer a variety of family support services. So if you have a family member that's struggling with mental health and or addiction, you can attend support groups with other family members. And some of those family members that lead the group have, again, a lived life experience. They've dealt with some of the stuff inside the household. So it's truly peer-led individuals that got lived life experience, either in the family, on the family side, or they themselves have it on the individual side. And I highly suggest go to the NAMI DuPage website, namidupage.org, and learn more about the services that are provided in the area. I don't think we've ever covered that, Justin, on a podcast.
No, I don't think so. So I'm thrilled that you took that moment to kind of have this beautiful segue in here to kind of capture what is actually being done there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good work. I love the fact that it's like, hey, there's no charge there. Like anybody the doors are always open and everybody is welcome to attend.
Yeah, and not only that, but you have individuals, in the hospitals, specifically like psychiatric care at various hospitals in DuPage County. They send in speakers with their life experience to provide hope and inspiration to these patients while they're under care in a very difficult time in their life. And quite frankly, for the audience, that's how I heard of NAMI. I was actually a patient in psychiatric care, and they actually shared a gentleman that shared his lived life experience. He spoke for about 45 minutes when I was hospitalized at Glen Oaks and Glendale Heights, and my life changed in that 45 minutes hearing his story. His addiction was similar to my addiction. He was an opiate addict in recovery. I'm now an opiate addict in recovery, but I wasn't when I heard his story. His story really changed my whole perception of things and provided hope and inspiration. So once I got sober for a period of time, I wanted to do that. And I started doing that, speaking at the hospitals, because I understood the importance of it, because I sat in those chairs. And then I started expanding, through NAMI by helping with different things like the dual diagnosis group and the MyCAP program, which is on Saturday mornings, which is a great program. It's actually a DuPage County program for people that got a one-off like mental health or drug and alcohol charge on their record. It's like a rehabilitation program where if they graduate, they got an opportunity for the charge to be reduced. So it's not necessarily going to affect their employment record and so forth. So, the services that they provide, the education that they provide really is really what this Mental Health Awareness Month is all about, quite frankly. So, again, check their website out. And if you have a relative, that's struggling, certainly get them to a support group. Depending on what support group you come to, you might see Mr. Lemonhead over here.
Oh, no, just couldn't help yourself, huh?
I had to.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of media coverage of Mental Health Awareness Month. I know there's a lot of 5Ks, a lot of walks. It's that time of the year. The weather's starting to get warm. A lot of fundraisers. I think we want to expand our services in the local Chicagoland area, certainly in DuPage County. So I encourage everybody to attend one of those fundraisers for sure, or one of those walks.
Absolutely. No, because I mean, it just kind of makes it much more welcoming in the sense of like saying, hey, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to at times not feel like you're okay. And to seek that support, let's make it normal. Make it normal as opposed to it kind of being one of the like, that's odd that they would go do that versus like, of course they would do that. But you're saying, hey, the disease flared up. You got to treat it. You got to address it. And a lot of times, like, hey, can't do this alone. Got to have the support in the alliance with others that can kind of have your back in those moments that you need it.
Yeah, I mean, I always talk about education and support. I mean, I think that's so important, in your recovery, to drive your recovery. And, some of the education that's provided through your peers by attending some of these events, some of these support groups, but also not only do you get the support, but you develop a network of like-minded individuals, that in some cases are in recovery that can give you some guidance and give you, and explain to you like what their recovery looks like. And it's just, there's a litany of information there. I mean, again, I early on I would sit back and listen at a lot of these meetings, and I would just take notes. Yeah, I could see myself doing that. No, I probably wouldn't do that. I'm not musical, or I'm not creative. I'm not going to sit there and do, drawing or try to play an instrument or what have you. I'm not really a meditative type of guy. I can't sit in a quiet room. Yeah, but I can get active in the gym and get my body active and so forth. So you sit back and you listen about what works for certain people. And again, that's where that education comes into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I mean, it's like that open-mindedness. Kind of say, hey, my way of kind of addressing this might not have been, it's helped me get to this point, and now I need to kind of incorporate something different. Kind of add to my arsenal here, right? Because that's part of like when you talk about like what's mental health, like it's not a very simple definition, right? You're kind of talking about not just like, hey, how's my mind? Like, how are my thoughts? How are my feelings? How are my behaviors? Well, when those things are in a good place, like I can feel like I'm in a good place. And it's more than just that. It's looking at those relationships that you just highlighted there. Those are critical. Those are important. Like we're people. Connection is huge. And there's no greater pain than the feeling of being disconnected and feeling alone and isolated. And so those relationships and having those in place are incredibly powerful because that's what can, those are the people that we lean on when we have a hard day. There's nothing greater than having somebody else sit across from you and be like, hey, tell me about what's going on and be genuinely interested in actually hearing your response versus hoping that you're just going to say, I'm good and we're going to move on,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a protected environment. You feel safety when you're talking to somebody that has understanding there, and you're not going to be judged. There's not going to be judgment. It's going to be a judgment-free zone. It's a safe zone basically, and I think that's a lot of times when you're struggling, that's what you're looking for is a safe zone.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you feel like you can't get that safe zone when you're out in the general public.
Yeah, like you're walking on landmines.
Because of the stigma and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. They got that hashtag end the stigma. And again, we've come a long way, but we're not even close to ending the stigma. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Locally, nationally, internationally, because this is a community thing.
You're on that macro level there, Mark. Oh, we kind of narrow that focus back into like, what can we do, right? Like, what are we gonna do? There's a lot of different options available for people. We got therapy, right? Saying, hey, like, it's okay to have somebody to go talk to. It's a great place. Of course, you got things going on. Allow somebody else to show up and support you and guide you through that. There's a lot of power in that. I know one of the big things that I know you and I talk about, and I give you a hard time because I feel like we always circle back to it, is the gym and working out and exercise. And it doesn't have to be going to the gym. It could just be going outside and going for a walk. Starting small and getting that body in motion to kind of get the brain working. Changing that pattern is a way to kind of help alleviate some stress, some anxiety, some depression. I mean, it's been shown in all the research to kind of help alleviate those symptoms and also boost mood, right? And sometimes, hey, just getting out what's in our head onto paper can be a really helpful thing too if we don't have somebody else to kind of express it to. So like journaling, I know a lot of people use journals as a great way to kind of communicate. And sometimes when we don't feel like we're in a spot to kind of communicate to another person, I've seen people set up like communication journals in the house where it's like, hey, we're going to communicate messages back and forth here to kind of make sure that we're still staying aligned in these moments that I might feel like I'm really struggling or it might be difficult for me to take that step, right? And so I think that kind of tying in when we're looking at like our mental health is saying, hey, what advice would you give to somebody else who's like struggling or find themselves in a difficult position? You would encourage them, hey, take some time for yourself. Give yourself permission to step aside and attend to what's going on and show up for yourself in a way that you need. And so giving yourself that grace to kind of take a break when you feel like you're pushing it to the brink of the edge, like that is okay. And that's actually a sign of strength is kind of let go of what's going on in that moment and prioritize yourself and not treat yourself like you're an option at that time. That way you can figure it out when you're kind of trying all these different tools and different ways to show up and be present with yourself, figuring out, hey, what works for me? And so in those moments that I feel challenged, I'm feeling stressed, feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling down, or just not even like myself, what can I do in that moment that's going to be helpful? That's really important. And taking the time to find that out, it's worth it.
I was going to say one more thing. I know we're going to wrap it up here. But what's interesting is, and I catch this a lot, like we all know we have physical health, right? We have our physical health. And everybody will talk about their physical health. You know, I got to lose a few pounds, or I got to get my diet in check, or I got to get more active or whatever, you know. But we all have mental health too. And when you bring up the topic of mental health, I hear it all the time. I don't have mental health. No, you have mental health. The question is whether or not it's in check or not. No different than is your physical health in check or not. And if we're going to take a look at our physical health and we want to make some adjustments, we do that on a regular basis, or we should be doing that on a regular basis with like a checkup at the doctor or an annual physical at the doctor or what have you. Okay. But we don't, until you're pretty much in crisis mode, very few people take look on the inside and really do an assessment of where they're at on the mental health side. It's like they just want to ignore the subject. I don't have mental health. Everybody has mental health.
It's like, I'm fine, Mark. What do you mean? Like, right? Because that's usually how it is. Like, opening up and having those honest conversations.
Yes. And that's what I said earlier. I mean, in a perfect world, this is normalized just like anything else. I think that's where true healing is going to come into play.
Absolutely. I think the importance at this time too, right, is focusing on what we got control over. What can we do to kind of push that forward by making this a priority each and every day? Having these open and honest conversations, right? Like model the expectation and understand also that there is still stigma that's present in this world. So it's also important to understand, hey, what do I need to do for myself in those moments where I feel like maybe it isn't the most accepting environment for me? How do I get that support that I need in those times that are a little bit more trying, a little bit more taxing, a little bit more difficult? What does that look like? So having a plan for that. I mean, you brought up like exercise, right? So it's like, hey, like, sure you got a plan when you go to the gym. Like, hey, I got a plan for like when my mood drops. What am I going to do? This is what I have in place. This is my emotional safety plan to make sure that I can show up and attend to it in a way that's going to be helpful. And I'm not going to fall into some like trying to just get away from it and run and hide as quickly as I can. I'm going to show up and attend to this.
Yeah.
A lot of times it means naming it when it starts to show up, because we know what ends up happening is the further it tries to get buried, the more insidious it becomes in our lives.
I mean, the first example you gave is being proactive, but most people are reactive.
Absolutely. I'll do it when it shows up. Showed up. Gotta do it now. Versus like, hey, I saw this happening. Saw this coming up.
Yeah.
Let me do what I know is effective and helpful for me. Let me reach out and get some support. Let me look inward and kind of ask myself, like, what support is it with what I got going on that's going to be helpful right now? How can I show up and attend to this for me while also pulling in those resources and engaging in those activities I know really matter to me? Even though I know it's going to be tough. And I think that's the thing. It's like sometimes we get stuck in that idea and that thought that shows up where like it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. I don't know if I can. And I can still move in that direction? How do I support myself so that I can continue to take that step, knowing that it's not going to be a sprint there, and maybe it's a slow crawl, and I'm still moving in that direction? What's going to be important for me to do? And I think that is really where we can kind of acknowledge the effort, the attempt, and the commitment to showing up, even in those times where we feel like we got nothing left in the tank. And it's like, hey, I found a way to get there. So, I think this has been a really good conversation as we kind of champion and head in here to Mental Health Awareness Month.
It was an excellent conversation. As always, I appreciate your words of insight.
Yeah, I appreciate you highlighting my Lemonhead affiliation. So thank you. Thank you, Mark.
And on you about your sugar fetish.
Don't you worry about me.
And for those of you that are attending the gala, when you see Justin, his candy of choice is Starburst jelly beans. But I'll tell you, close number 2 is Lemonheads.
Yeah, I mean, you act like you haven't had, like you would not be wanting to get your hands on some Starburst jelly beans, Mark. I mean, come on now.
I like them.
Program.
I don't know. I love them. I do.
So they're feeling neglected by you, is what I'm hearing.
They are being neglected by me right now, yes.
Go back to that Mariano's. I'm sure those boxes are still there.
If I bought them, it would only be for you, but I don't want to feed to have it.
You have permission.
With that, you better end it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining these podcasts. These will drop on the 1st and the 15th of every month. So as always, if there's any topics, conversation you would love to hear Mark and I talk about outside of candy of choice, I mean, feel free to dive those in there, throw them out there.
Whoa.
We're more than happy to take some time.
Hang on. My bad. See, we're having fun tonight.
That's
May 18th. May 18th, I forgot about this. May 18th, in conjunction with Mental Health Awareness Month, we are actually having a live podcast.
Oh.
Where we're going to be taking your questions. So stay tuned for more information on that. Go to NAMI DuPage's website for that. You have an opportunity to ask questions for Justin or me live on that podcast.
That is right.
You could ask Justin what his favorite color jelly bean is, and he'll be able to answer it live.
Yeah. It's green Starburst, man. It's delicious.
And I'm sorry to interrupt there, Justin, but I wanted to get that in. I think it was important.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. So, no, I'm glad you mentioned it. Yeah, so go ahead. Join us here. The 18th. That'll be great. And with that, as always, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will catch everybody on the next episode here.
Thanks for joining us today on Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery. If you're on the journey to find guidance and insights, subscribe now wherever you find your podcasts. Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery is an educational resource, not a substitute for medical or therapeutic advice. The opinions expressed by the hosts and their guests are not necessarily those of NAMI DuPage. Go to namidupage.org/podcast for links to past episodes, show notes, and to submit a question or topic ideas for a future episode. Until next time, be well.